There's an entire website dedicated to OBS plugins that are made almost exclusively with VTubers in mind. It's run by someone named Hōrai, who works tirelessly pumping out new Lua scripts, and they're all completely free to use, and neatly organized in one place. I've been trying to make a video on this amazing resource for like months now, but Hōrai continuously just adds more plugins, so by the time this is live, there's probably another new one. And I might as well just go ahead and cover the crazy amount of resources that we already have, so let's go check them out. First, I have to tell you how to actually use them though. These are mostly all scripts, not actual plugins, except they're basically plugins, so I'm just gonna call them plugins. You can go to Hōrai's website and pick the one that you want, and then when you click on the link, you'll be led to Hōrai's Twitter. And from there will be a Google Drive link where you can download the script from. Sometimes there will be some extras and instructions, but all you really need is the script. Inside of OBS, you'll go to Tools, Scripts, and click the plus button here to add your scripts in. And then once it pulls up the folder, you can go ahead and open your downloads folder as well and directly drag those downloads into your scripts folder, so you don't have to worry about finding this really long address in your file explorer. If it doesn't show up as a script, it might be an exe file, as in it comes with an installer, or with things like the VtubeStudio doc, it might actually have its own separate instructions, so just be sure to read the README doc. It's important, you know, given the name and all that. Some of these will show as actual filters, some as sources, and some as a completely separate utility that'll need its own explanation in order for you to use. So just make sure to try hunting them down once they're installed, since there's so much variation between them in terms of where they'll be located and how you might actually use them. Since there's a lot to get to, this is kind of organized into visual effects, camera and lighting stuff, overlay stuff, and then miscellaneous or like utility stuff. So let's just kick it off with the effects. Some of these are really reminiscent of effects that you can get from the OBS shader filter plugin or the retro effects plugin, or even native to VtubeStudio itself. Like for example, the retro game script or retro game color script, and even the urban myth game script. These are all reminiscent of the pixelation effect in VtubeStudio, except they have some extra customization options, and the dithering does actually look really nice. Plus it's controlled inside of OBS instead of VtubeStudio, which is always a plus. You have things like the old TV effect, which does exactly what it sounds like, and the DR glitch effect or Dr. glitch effect, which will add digital noise and also provides that awesome retro vibe. Of course, like I said before, if you want more retro, digital, glitchy kind of vibes, you can go for Finite Singularity's retro effects plugin as well. But it's cool to see them coming from different places and having separate options for how to control them and adjust them. There are also some scripts to make you wiggle around, either sporadically and violently, if that's something that you're looking for, or something just as simple as turbulent displacement, which is available inside of VtubeStudio as well. Color Splash is an easy to use color masking script, and Mosaic is just a classic mosaic filter. And all of these are really cool, but you can get them mostly from other OBS filters or even just from inside of VtubeStudio itself. But the next category is mostly for environment building stuff. And while there is some of this inside of VtubeStudio as well, there's definitely far less of this in terms of OBS plugins, and I think that's just because most people aren't VTubers, and most people that need background adjustments will just like go adjust their background because they're a person with a real background behind them. But for us, it's a little different. So we have things like the Rainy Day plugin, which will add this rain droplet effect to your, in air quotes, lens to create a cozy little vibe. And there's also a couple of lighting effects plugins, like the Adaptive Lighting plugin, which is probably one of the easiest ways you can add dynamic lighting to your model. If you want something a little bit fancier, I do have a video on a different lighting method using only OBS plugins, which I'll link below, but it's a bit more involved than just dumping a single filter on your model like these are. Alternatively, Hōrai also has a candlelight plugin, which casts a flame light and moving shadow over your model. Or you could use the backlight effect, which lets you pick a color for a backlight, and it has a darkening effect as well. There's also additional lens effects like the frosted glass effect, and that'll convert a source to a really pretty matte kind of glass. It's pretty much just a blur filter, but it looks way prettier and more immersive in my opinion. You also have the anamorphic lens, which adds this cinematic light streak kind of effect, and then you also have the star flow streaks effect, which also adds cool streaks to your model. But perhaps one of the coolest ones is the refraction effect, which looks exactly like how liquid glass looks on the new iOS update. I seriously do not know how they are making stuff like this, but this looks so cool. It even bends other OBS sources around it. It's really, really cool looking. There's also an additional plugin, one which I've been using this entire video to showcase these filters, and that's the adjustment layer plugin, which you can use as a source, and then any filters that you add to the source will apply to the layers underneath it. Aside from making it easy to change the vibe of a scene without even touching the sources, it's also great for planning how different effects can work together in a scene without actually having to move between sources and set them up manually yourself. So it's an incredibly useful plugin. Hōrai has also made a few camera plugins, so you can easily add something like tilt shift or a neat little billboard effect similar to the one included in the 𝘂𝙬𝗎 app. And just like in 𝘂𝙬𝗎, there's a camera switcher, and it'll let you save camera positions in these presets here, and then you can set it to automatically switch between all of those different cameras, either randomly or in order. You might even be inclined to try the Horizon plugin, which adds sort of a floating or parallax effect to different sources. Between all of this stuff, you can make scenes that look pretty close to 𝘂𝙬𝗎 scenes without actually having to have 𝘂𝙬𝗎 open, which is great if you have like a single screen and you just want to be able to pull up OBS and see what's going on and adjust things there instead of having to open another app to figure it out. And of course, it's also free in comparison to 𝘂𝙬𝗎, and although 𝘂𝙬𝗎 is pretty inexpensive, some people just don't have the money for that, so it's cool that people on a budget can have another option. Aside from the visual stuff for VTubers though, there's a ton of really neat overlay stuff as well. One of the most popular ones is the 3D panel effect, which looks so clean and interesting on pretty much any stream, since it adds depth to whatever base source it's attached to. You can even change the back panel to be something different and make an actually seemingly 3D object inside of OBS. It's insanely cool. If you're an artist, this is also a great option for displaying your work on stream, though the holographic display plugin looks equally as cool if you want to mix things up. Hōrai also has 2 masking plugins for those that love having dynamic cutouts on their streams. The fractured frame plugin can be animated, and it'll adjust itself consistently while you're playing on screen. You don't even need move filters or the move plugin at all, it just animates itself as a toggle in the settings. There's also the sci-fi corner wipe script, and that's another masking option that you can use for minimalist overlays. It's got this nice little cyberpunk neon border around it that constantly animates itself with these little waves. You can further elevate your overlays, of course, with extras like the glass clock plugin, which is simply just a neat and clean looking real-time clock, or you can use stuff like text effector to add something really unique on screen, and there's several different options of HTML and CSS pairs for you to choose from, like the rainbow option or the neon glow option. And if these aren't cool enough to you, there are some extremely niche plugins that do insane things, ranging from little chat widgets like the 𝗏𝘂𝙀𝙀 widget, which picks an icon for each chatter and gives them a speech bubble, or the news ticker widget, which scrolls through whichever updates you set it to and then can cycle through a few different ones while using a custom icon. There are even some as wacky as a literal marshmallow machine that's meant to pull confessions from an anonymous questions app. And this one even has a doc in OBS, or a little reaction bot that uses chat inputs to count down until setting off an explosion. There's a chat combo counter too, and if you're feeling really fancy, there's even a whole ass virtual hotkey portal for VFX, although I haven't messed with that one personally. One of the best utility plugins in my opinion though is the VtubeStudio Hotkey UI. This adds all of your VtubeStudio hotkeys into a dock inside of OBS. So if you're low on hotkeys or you can't remember them, or maybe you just don't have a Stream Deck or can't afford one, you can literally just host all of those hotkeys inside of OBS and just click them on your screen instead. I have no clue how Hōrai has this output of amazingly creative plugins, but they're just constantly pumping them out, so be sure to try them out and also give them a follow on Twitter. So let me know if you're using any of these down in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!